Yes. So, good afternoon, all of you present here. And I'm really happy. First of all, I would like to congratulate you as you have chosen your journey for research. Um, Choosing to do a research is the first step that is most crucial. And what is essential after that is the willpower to continue that journey. Right. So, before we move on understanding how to write an effective thesis, we first will understand what is this research practically means. What do you think? What research is? As the name suggests itself, you have to research the existing knowledge in order to contribute something new in the pursuit of the quest of the knowledge. At the same time, you can even do it through your discoveries or innovations also. But understand when we call research, there should happen a contribution from your side. Unless or until there is a contribution, it can't be called as a research. Many people, what do? They usually decide a topic, start conducting research, and conclude others' works in a form of summary in their own work. But does it mean a research altogether? No, that is not. Because that's not enough, practically. Why? Because unless or until you contribute something from your side, it can't be called as a research. In the pursuit of research, you have to go for a very disciplined, specific path the path which has rules and regulations, its own standard norms, procedures, and you have to follow everything out in order to reach to your destination. So, what are these norms? What are these standard procedures? Let us first start understanding about it. So, before we go for that, understanding various norms and regulations, first understand what is thesis practically. So, thesis or a dissertation is a lengthy piece of writing that is in academics which sometimes we submit for the partial fulfillment of your master degree or a full-fledged degree of our PhD or MPhil, right? It has a different structure according to your discipline, and structure varies. But there are some common things which we will be discussing today, which are common for science, arts, commerce, or any other discipline. For example, the part introduction, choosing methodology, identifying statement of problem, sample of your study. These are certain common things which will be occurring everywhere in every research. Go to the next slide, please. So, for example, in humanities, research is practically, or the thesis is practically written in a long form of essay, developing an overall sense of argument revolving around the central thesis idea. And it has various chapterizations organized on diverse case studies or various themes, which are again correlated to your central theme. For example, let's say empirical research. Empirical research happens on the data which is already in existence. Historical research, let's say. In the subject like sciences or social sciences, the thesis is going to feature all the components that are about to discuss further, that we will discussing in the next slide. But usually what happens in certain specific disciplines, research section is treated separately, but in other disciplines, research section is always woven together with the findings or discussion section. These are the only differences. So what we will do today is we'll understand overall how to start your journey of research and how to reach to that specific uh, realm altogether. Okay, go to the next slide, please. So this is how is the usually structure of any other research. Ideal structure. First comes your introduction, uh, then comes literature review. You also have to talk about the methodology of your study, and then results of your research, discussions, and then conclusions. Okay, these are certain important factors Those are very important to be discussed in the form of various chapters. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, this is the very important slide where we have to discuss most of the aspects. So, first slide, in this slide, if you could see, first step, there are various steps written over here, right? So, first step is about choosing your topic of research. So, what happens? Many times, people do have various kind of understandings with lot of enthusiasm. They choose topics which are beyond their capacity, and then ultimately that kind of research fails because they could not continue doing that research, and then they lose all the data that has been collected or all the power enthusiasm that they have had at the beginning of their journey of research itself. Then what is important here in the first step when you choose your topic, you have to choose your topic which should be beneficial to the wider community. Not only one person, but many people should be benefited by that. Okay. So there should be some concrete contribution from your research topic. Second important thing is it should be in your capacity. For example, you may feel like I'll go for the field research to collect lot of data, but every time that won't be possible, right? You may have some limitations like money, space, or time. Let's say that within a certain time frame you have to finish it up. So if you consider yourself that I'll go and search something particular in the North Pole for several months and or several years, do you think that is really practical enough to go for? Do you think that will be capable enough to be finished in the time frame that you have decided? So according to that, you have to think. Always remember, every university, wherever you take admission for your PhD or even for masters, when you have to write master's dissertation, sorry, they give you a handbook. In that handbook, they talk about what are the expectations they do have from your research. I mean, what are the chapters that you can include. At the same time, every degree comes with a time frame. For example, generally in the standard norm in Indian universities, any PhD research can be conducted from 3 years to 5 years. Okay, that is the ideal time frame. So once you take admission from there after finishing your coursework, you can submit your thesis after the coursework within 2.5 years. That is, if your coursework is 6 months, then 3 years to altogether, right? Or maximum 5 years. In certain cases, if they are not able to finish it within 5 years, then you may get 1 or 2 years grace period, not more than that. Or your degree may be cancelled or you have to take fresh admission. So if you want to avoid all these kind of difficulties, then you have to choose a topic which should be capable in your time frame given by your university. So that is what it's written here, that is achievable. Why is it important? Why your topic is important? This clarity you should always have. If you have a clarity of this, only then you are going to convince others. You will be able to convince others that why your research has some importance, right? Otherwise, if you fail to convince others, if you fail to understand yourself the importance of your topic, you will not be able to put it forth effectively through your oral presentation of your thesis. So basically, start working on that first while choosing the topic. So here, to summarize, step 1, whenever you will choose the topic, make sure that it should be beneficial to the wider community of academic scholars and not limited to only few people or a certain community. Second important thing is it should be achievable in the stipulated time frame. Third important thing is that should have immense importance. That is going to contribute something very concrete in the stream of existing knowledge. Now, what is the second step here? Second step here is identifying and following ethics and protocols given by the standard committees, like let's say UGC is a governing body in the senior colleges or universities. Likewise, whatever your university has written in the handbook, please study it carefully about the standard norms, protocols, those have to be followed while conducting research. For example, in certain universities, if you have taken admission to the PhD degree, especially let's say, you should not work anywhere else as a full time professional. That is a condition that university keeps. Then you have to abide by that rule. Certain universities allows you to work on part time, so you can earn and learn at the same time. But there are some common ethics and protocols like your research has to be a genuine piece of writing. Avoid Completely avoid plagiarism, copying material from any other source, because plagiarism will make your work very foul. So, what you can do in this case, because many times we have to cite the information, source the information from various resources. For example, books, articles, scholarly lectures, others research works, something like that. You have to take some references. So make sure that you add all those references either in citation or in bibliography or in footnotes of your research work. At the same time, when we are talking about the standardization of writing, there are certain style shifts of writing a research. For example, in arts and humanities, usually they prefer MLA or APA style of writing. In science and natural sciences, they prefer Chicago. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to take standard style sheet guides, study those carefully. That practically happens in the coursework before you start writing your research, and then make sure that you adopt all kind of style recommendations in your research work, so your research work becomes flawless. Now you also have to bother about the structure of your thesis. For this, what you can do best is, this structure usually is little flexible. You always have a kind of freedom given by every university to add on certain things on your own, but overall structure is common. So you can either find it in the handbook given by the university, or you can study it from the previous works submitted to the same university by the previous scholars. Okay. If you don't get any of these, then we are going to anyways discuss the structure of the ideal thesis writing, which is common and standard, mostly practice on international and national level. You can follow that. Now, you also have to make sure that whatever source material you are using, those should be authentic. Do not cite or source your information from any fake or unreliable resources. What would happen if you rely on those unreliable resources? Then your research will get polluted, because your research will depend on the fake data. So ultimately, your conclusions will be foul, right? So you always have to make sure that whenever you are citing information, go only on the standard and genuine websites. For example, government websites for certain government reports like population report or male female ratio reports, all health related reports on health ministry. Okay. Or surveys done by Times of India on education status of Mumbai, or let's say India altogether. So you can rely on those, because these are some standard bodies which do conduct a thorough and genuine research. So you have to make sure that whatever data you are citing, that resource has to be very authentic. Okay. So you have to go for it. Then next step comes here, have a clear goal and structure. Once you have decided what topic you are going to choose for your work, once you have understood what are the style sheets you are going to use in your research work, how will you write it out, then comes important point, that is structuring your research or putting a goal in front of you. You have to put a certain goal in front of you. For example, for certain months, I within certain months I will be completing my first chapter. In next 6 months, I will be completing my second chapter, or in certain month, I will be doing my data collection. For a few months, I'll be doing my field work, something like that. So you have to set certain goals. According to that, make sure that you go for it practically. Now there will be little difference in it, of course, as we are human beings, and time is has no bound, right? So there might be some pluses minuses due to some unavoidable occurrences. So it may happen that you may not finish it into the stipulated time frame, but always give a buffer of 15 days or something like that. So you can always have a target in front of you, an achievable target definitely, let us say, and then according to that you can start writing. So for this, what has to be done? First thing you have to done is you have to write a proposal outline. So you have to write a proposal. So it will give you an outline of how will your overall research flow in the form of a thesis. What are the tentative chapterizations? What will come first? What will come later? What kind of tentative conclusions you will have? So you'll get certain kind of ideas in it. You will also figure out what methodology you will use for your research. Then comes important part, that is reading and researching. That is data collection. You have to read a lot. You have to cite as much as resources as possible. All authentic resources, of course. Do not rely only on one source of information. That is, let's say, only books or library. Go for multiple resources, like visit multiple libraries from various universities. Read articles available online on standard website, genuine website like scholarly.com, Google Scholarly, let's say, or some very good journals like Oxford, Stanford journals, where they give scope to authentic, genuine, and innovative research. You can read some articles from there, scholarly work of people, refer a lot of books, because books are very thoroughly researched and then compiled information. You can also go for lecture series available online or offline. You can also collect data from interview technique, like interviewing the experts in the field for data collection, or you can take the interview of the tar- target sample that you have chosen for your research. For example, let's say there is a topic, health issues in the lactating mothers in some uh, deprived region, let's say in Gadchiroli region. I have taken that topic, health issues in the lactating mothers in Gadchiroli. Then what I have to do is I have to make a questionnaire, prepare a questionnaire, go there practically in Gadchiroli, the area which I have chosen, and take interviews of those ladies who are lactating mothers and understand their health issues. If not possible the fieldwork, then I can send my representative, or I can ask somebody to arrange a video conferencing with them so I can take the interview of them. Or I can simply send questionnaire to some volunteers so they can go and fill the answers, or those who are I can send the questionnaire in the NGOs which are working in that area. So the NGOs will fill the information and then I'll do my research based on that data. But that will not be the primary source of information, understand? Because that will be outsourced by the secondary source. Lactating mothers are not giving you the response. Somebody else is given on behalf of them. So there might be possibility that information is not true. Okay. So, what next you can do is you can also refer to the research works done by other people or reports generated by certain NGOs which talk about various health issues of these ladies. So you can take those datas and then you can conduct your study or conclude your own findings based on it. So these are various methodologies through which you can conduct your research. Now, when you start compiling your data, so once let's say you have collected ample data, while collecting data, don't think like I will include this, I will not include that, I may use this, I may not use that. Don't think like that because data collection is the step when you have to just collect the data constantly. And so you should have n number of pieces of work ready with you. Later on comes the step that is filtering. While collecting the data, don't think of filtering because filtering is the next step. In filtering, let's say out of 100%, you may practically use only 30%. So 70% of your work may go waste. But that's okay. This is how research works. Don't bother about that. While collecting data, just collect it out because you may not miss any major information then. But when you will go for filtering the data, that time you have to be careful of adding all the major possible details in your research work. So that comes the next step, filtering data. Once you filter the data, then start structuring your thesis. That so which data will you use in this chapter 1, which will go in chapter 2, which will go under literature review, which will be the primary source of your study or a method of study, okay, or which will come under as a case study or sample for your research. So all these things you have to decide while filtering it out and then structure your thesis. Understand, your research never gets finalized in one go. It takes time. It takes lot of structuring and restructuring. So don't worry about that. Start writing from day one. Start writing as you go. Don't bother much about structuring your thesis in the first step itself because later on lot of things change. You may feel like adding some information or changing some information or deleting some information. All things are possible in restructuring. So always draft and redraft your thesis before finalizing it out. Before finalizing, proofreading is highly important because once you submit your thesis, you cannot change it out. So if your thesis goes with lot of mistakes or some blunders, it is going to give a very bad representation of yours. So you have to make sure that you have to give only flawless material. For that, you have to proofread by yourself first, get it proofread by your peers who are doing research in the same field, get it proofread by your guide, co guide, or the expert in your field. These many proofreading are really important. Whatever language you have chosen for your research work, English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, whatever it is, find a subject language expert and get its grammar checked from that person also, because lot of people, brilliant scholars, do have amazing work ready. They also write amazing research papers also, but when it comes to the presentation, they do not pay attention to the grammar checks, and that gives very wrong meaning of the content that they have written, and which is really a bad representation of that person's excellent knowledge, right? So proofreading is highly essential. Do not ever feel lazy while doing a proofreading or redrafting the research. Four important steps here includes write as you go. As I told you from day one itself, start writing. Do not wait for the ultimate day to come when you will start writing and today I will just read. It doesn't happen like that. There may be lot of articles or lot of chunks of literature which you will not even touch it again. because time will not permit you. You have to go through lot of data, I guess. So what you have to do is, whenever you feel that there is one article out of which I'm going to use only small piece of information, underline that immediately and start noting it down in your notebook. So make a separate notebook of it and start noting down those things from day one itself. It's always great if you could revisit the same text again and again for a better understanding. But in most of the cases, it won't be possible for every data that you are reading or every book that you are reading, right? So for that, what you have to do is start writing as you go. Always aim for the suitable capacity range. Okay, suitable target that we have already discussed. So it should finish in the given time frame. Check that you have addressed everything at the end of your finishing research. So there should not be left any information which is not cited. If it happens like that, then it will go under plagiarism. So to avoid that, you better go for citation. Okay. Right now, if you have scare or fear in your mind, how will I write citation? There are some standard websites like Manually which help you out to write very good standard citations in APA format or even in MLA also. So you can check certain websites which will make you help to ease your research. Okay, but ultimate my suggestion is better you master that structure. Okay, so frequent backup of your research is very important. So keeping multiple copies of your same work. Let's say you have finished writing one chapter, keep it in the hard copy, keep it in the soft copy, in your pen drive or in your laptops, mail it to your friend, or else you can also uh, keep it in your drive also. So in this way, you will have always multiple copies available. So in case of any last minute mishap happens, you may not lose your important work. That's the only concern. Okay, so frequent backups are very important. Always keep a track of your own progress. Are you really working constantly or not? Are you going in correct direction or not? Many times it happens that in the weave of writing, you always feel like diverted. You feel like writing on something else altogether. Do not do that. And understand it's very normal. So temptation comes in your path where you will feel like I don't want to do this. I am enchanted by something else now. Okay. You have to bring your mind back telling that this is your target and you have to finish this up. Then if time permits, you can always conduct research and write research papers. So never ever during the PhD writing phase think that, oh, now I want to conduct a research on something else. Don't do that. You have already chosen this topic after thinking for several hours or months, right? After a certain ample research. So let's first finish it out. Whatever new idea comes in your mind, always write it down and then you can conduct a separate research paper based on that. Write a research paper based on it. And then you can publish it out. So don't wait for your only PhD to happen on that topic. Okay, always remember this. So you always have to keep the track. Always maintain a questioning and critical mindset. So you will always find a flaw in your own work. If you fail to convince, it means you will fail to convince others also, right? So you always ask questions to yourself if this sounds perfect, if there is any other meaning possible, any ambiguity possible, then you can continue your research. Then at the same time, you also have to be make sure that you are very strongly agree to your own content itself. Okay. Explain your reasoning, forming, and strong argument. Always support your arguments with lot of concrete data. Never just randomly say that India is a democratic country and that's it. How India is a democratic country? Where do you learn it from? Give citation from authentic websites, like let's say even from constitution. If you have read this statement in the constitution, give reference of it. Indian constitution says that India is a democratic country. It should not be you or me who should make such kind of statements. So you have to cite authentic references for this. So you always have to have a critical mindset and strong convincing skill for yourself. Explain your reasoning. So whenever you are making any statement, always back it up with some concrete data. Like, where do you read this line from? Bibliography content page is very important. Okay, do not ever underestimate those pages, because even for your final dissertation or thesis submission, these pages are highly important. Like preliminary pages where you have to sign, your guide will sign, your HOD will sign, university will sign, there will be a stamp of university which will make your work authentic. At the same time, bibliography will also give you a chance of avoiding your research out of plagiarism. So you have to make sure that you always include all these important letters or words or even pages also. Okay. Can you please go to the next slide? So I hope you have understood these steps altogether. That is the major crux of today's talk, basically. Now, how do you structure your thesis in a standard form? So usually, whatever discipline you are from, these are certain standard practices, common things we can find in every kind of writing. Like first is a title page, then comes acknowledgement, comes then abstract. The abstract is kind of summarizing of your own work. But this summarizing might be in different types. For example, if you are writing a research article, this summary will flow only in a paragraph, small paragraph of 150 to 200 words. But if you are writing a lengthy piece of writing like thesis of 300 pages, then your abstract will flow in several paragraphs in the on the full page. Okay, so this is a difference. Whenever you are writing the thesis or dissertation, understand it's a very large piece of writing. So make sure to make a page of contents, which will talk about the page numbers of certain topics which you have chosen to be written in that thesis altogether. Okay. So in the table of contents should be the name of the topic that you have chosen along with the page number comes. If you are using certain figures or tables which are very technical, always give a list separate on the separate page. You can even keep it in the appendices. If you are using some very complicated terminologies, better give a glossary. Okay. So here comes important points, like you have to begin your thesis writing with introduction, then comes literature review or theoretical background, then comes methodology, research section, discussion, conclusion, reference list, and appendices. Next slide, please. So mostly we have discussed everything here. Your first page looks like this. It depends on which university you are submitting your thesis to. They actually give one ideal format in which you have to write your first uh, page of your thesis. So usually it is a replica of your hardcover of a thesis, central aligned, Times New Roman 14 to 16 font, and then you write first letter of every information capital. Okay, next page, please. Okay, now acknowledge page is there, which is optional, but this page gives you a chance to thank all those people who have helped you out somehow to finish your work. So it's a very beautiful page where you can show your thanks, gratitude to people who are there supporting you all the time. So please add this out. Second page, please. Next slide. After the page of acknowledgement comes abstract. As I told you, that abstract is a kind of summary. Depends on what you write and what you write for. So generally for abstract, what you have to identify and make sure to include is the main topic and the aim of your research. Methods of your research work. Summarizing main points and then state your conclusions. These are certain things which are common in all kind of abstracts. Next page, please. Now, abstracts are also various different type of. You can refer one of my previous lectures on IoT itself about abstract writing. Table of countries, as I told you, that make sure that you give a list of tables or figures those you are using in your research work. Next page, please. Yes, we have done with this also. Go to the next slide. So add list of figures, tables, abbreviations, glossary in your work. So the person, let's say, reading page number 50 of your research work, suddenly comes across some technical term, do not understand anything at all. That person can go back to the glossary page and identify the meaning and come back to you. That person doesn't have to keep on struggling. Where did I read it on page number 13 or 10 or something? So it will be very easy for that. That's why you always have to make sure to add abbreviations, list of figures, tables, or glossary if needed. Next slide, please. In introduction, you have to talk about the main idea of your research work. That is also in few lines. Then you can continue writing about the statement of problem. So in the introduction itself, you have to give the necessary background information of your research topic, narrowing down the focus and defining why your research is important. Understood? You also have to discuss the state of existing research and showing how previous research works did not work on it, how I alone has worked on it. Thereafter comes overview of your structure of thesis. Everything in the introduction should be clear, engaging, relevant to your research. So here comes the important points and the structure, especially on this page of introduction, that you have to at least give a glimpse of what will be there in your research writing for next 100 pages. So this part is very crucial. So please craft it carefully. Next page, please. Next slide. Literature review is important, in which you talk about the resources those you are citing and the references which you are quoting for your own work. Okay. For example, you can refer articles of people who have conducted research on the same topic. Okay. But you can show that how their research works are related to yours and identify the gap where they did not address the problems and which you will be investigating in your research. So, in this way, your research will be proven to be unique or new. Now, here, criticizing is one aspect that comes under literature review, but it does not mean that you should say that somebody's work is just useless. Everybody has a purpose of writing for their own topic, but there might be various reasons for different conclusions. So do not ever, as a researcher, use any foul language for the next person. Okay. Next slide, please. Methodology is highly important to be chosen because this is how you conduct your research, right? So, what is methodology practically? So, methodology includes the oral approach or type of research. For example, qualitative, quantitative, experimental, or ethnographic. Like if you talk about qualitative research, then you have to do the data analysis. Text will be given and you have to analyze various elements in that text. If you are doing qualitative research means you have to start dealing only in the quantity or the numbers of your topic chosen or your subject chosen, sample chosen. So you can directly use some formulas in order to showcase that quantitative topic. Same is experimental and ethnographic. Okay, your method of data collection can be multiple, as we said. You can go for interviews, surveys, archives, reports on government website, etc. Okay, but be make sure that you are making some responsible statements, and you have to be very careful while making your questionnaire, at the same time writing about your data collection method also. Now always give details of who, uh, where or with whom the research took place. Okay, uh, the tool or material you need for your research work. For example, computer graphics, lab equipment, let's say. For example, in the research work like English, especially if they want to do in English as a second language, they must need language lab, let's say. Okay. So you have to talk about certain materials or tools which you may require for your research work. Then comes a discussion of any obstacle or challenges that you faced to overcome certain problem, or any strategy that you might have used to overcome a problem. Then comes evaluation or justification of your work. So you have to do a self evaluation before you start giving it out to others, that are you first satisfied with your own research work. If you are, only then others will be. Always remember this. Next slide, please. Results and findings sometimes are treated separately in certain kind of thesis writing, but result and findings are the soul of the research work, because this is where your real contribution comes. This is where you talk about what the previous scholars did do, and you have done that. So it talks about a discovery or innovation from your side. Next topic, please. Then comes important part, that is discussion. In certain type of writing, they call it findings also, or in certain type of writing, they call it results section also. Okay, so these terms vary, but what comes major here is you have to give here explanation of the factors that you have chosen. At the same time, you also have to give some opinions if required. Next slide, please. Conclusion is very important point here. Your conclusion should give an answer of your main research question, why you have conducted, what you have conducted, how you have conducted the research. Then leaving the reader with a clear understanding of your control argument. So the reader should also get convinced by your own argument that you have made. It is also a final reflection on what and how did you find it. The recommendation for research or practices. There comes a point under conclusion which is known as scope and limitation or pedagogical implications. Now, when we talk about pedagogical implications, it means that every research has a limitation, right? Might be a time frame is a limited thing, or might be money as a limited resource. So I would be able to go for a field research on understanding the issues of lactating mothers in the rural areas. I was not able to go for a field research, but this is a very potential area of research I have found. And rather than doing it on the experiences of some random NGO people, I'll if some of you, some new research scholar goes there and find the data, that will be more useful. That will be more concrete. This is what might be the recommendation that will come in the paper. Okay. At the same time, you also have to address your problem once again. why your research really matters. Why is it going to change anybody's life or anybody's conclusion or any findings? Okay, these are certain things you have to take note of. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. You haven't changed it. Huh. Now, referencing is very important. Understand every resource that you are citing. You have to give a credit back to that resource, right? You have to say thank you to all those resources, though mental, physical, or online, offline available. You should not trouble thanking people for various kind of help that has been given. At the same time, if you have collected data from various resources, then you have to give proper referencing of that material or proper citing of that material, or else it will be considered under plagiarism. Next point, please. Appendices comes only in certain cases. For example, let's say if you have taken interview forms and given to the lactating mothers to fill it out or interview people, and if they give you the hard copies, or if you go for a field work and click some photographs before after, something like that, then you have to give some photographs, reports under the this appendices section, so they will get extra information besides the main research. Next slide, please. These are certain mistakes we must avoid while writing the research. The primary pages of your research are missing. It should not happen because these pages are highly important. Abstract of your research thesis is lengthier than a page. That may also create a problem because abstract is actually a summary. Your thesis should not contain any formatting problems. It should be flawless. At the same time, certain ones come with a proposal stage. For example, when you propose for a topic, you usually write in the future tense that I will conduct the tentative chapterization will be these. But when you write a thesis, understand you have completed it out. So it should go either in simple past or in past participle. So do not confuse in that tense. Otherwise, it will be very easy to understand that you have just simply copied the material out. If anybody avoid, anybody violates the academic integrity, then that person will be caught in plagiarism. Okay, so you have to avoid that also. Your thesis contained grammatical mistakes, jargons, or unclear paragraphs or organizations. Now, what happens practically if your thesis has lot of flaws, right? Lot of grammatical errors or unclear kind of expressions, which are making it more critical or ambiguous, then people will not get a clear message. So, better always make sure that you run some grammar basic checks like Grammarly, or there are some other apps also available through which you can get it cross checked properly, and then you can finally look it out once again by your own, and then you can submit your thesis. Next slide, please. Yes. So this is how you basically, next slide, go for your final thesis submission. These are some references I have used for making this PPT. Yeah. Thank you so much, all of you, for your very patient and consistent listening. Now, over to you. I open this talk for discussion.